All right, our next speaker is Thea from University of Darmstadt, and she is a postdoc there, and she will be speaking to us next. So thank you, Thea. Turn on your mic. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Is this on? Okay, great. Perfect. So, short warm-up question. Who knows what open source intelligence is or has come across open source intelligence? I see a few hands. Okay, nice. Would you like to share which are the area of application was? Maybe over there? Police work, okay. And over there, someone? Sorry? I didn't get it, sorry. Humanitarian system, thank you. Yeah, so open source intelligence has many areas of application, and today I want to talk about privacy concerns and acceptance factors of open source intelligence in cybersecurity. And why does this matter? So we have a project, it's called Cy1, and we work with on cyber situational awareness and communication with German computer emergency response teams in public administration. And for that we conducted a representative survey, and we found out that the number of open source intelligence systems in cybersecurity is growing, and most of those systems don't use personal data, but some actually do, because you can use it to identify threats and even like profile groups or individuals. And this is not part of our project. This is our dashboard that we are working on. We are using different open sources to analyze them for new cyber security threats. And these systems can be considered surveillance-oriented security technologies, and the way these sources work, they have an impact on our behavior and how we possibly feel monitored and watched online, and that's why it's really important in our project that we conduct an ethical and social and legal implications research part. And this study is part of this so-called ELSI work package, where we study the perception of the population on the issue. So in a research question, we wanted to know, how do people evaluate the use of open source intelligence for cybersecurity by governmental organizations, and which factors are associated with the acceptance of OSINT? And when we look at the literature, we can see that acceptance of surveillance technology has been studied, mostly with regard to, for example, camera surveillance in public spaces. And the factors that have been studied have been, or the connections have been regarding the threat perception. So the literature found that people with a higher threat perception are more likely to support government surveillance. And trust played an enormous role as well, because trust in authorities is positively correlated to the increased acceptance of surveillance measures. Regarding the privacy impact of OSINT, there has been only few studies looking into government surveillance. Most of the studies has focused on targeted advertising and economic contexts, and but we have found in the literature, for example, is a longitudinal study by Wester and Kieselige, where they found that the risk perception of surveillance has decreased, while people were more actively calling for transparency. So the hypothesis that we derived from the literature is that privacy concerns have a significant influence on the acceptance of surveillance technologies, and people who have privacy concerns would not perceive surveillance as necessary and are less likely to disclose personal information. So Drawing from the literature, we derived our constructs that we wanted to measure and to test on our data set in a representative study with a closed questionnaire. The questionnaire was developed within our research and development team within 2 workshops, and we surveyed over 1,000 people in Germany, which are representatively distributed. Then we conducted a factor analysis with multiple linear regression. So the constructs that we derived from the literature are OSINT acceptance, so the acceptance of a range of surveillance activities, the threat perception, so the fear of crime, terrorism, and of being harmed, the perceived need for OSINT, so the perception that government surveillance is necessary for the protection of citizens, the anticipation of future possible privacy violations and or loss thereof as privacy concerns. And also we wanted to know if people are actually aware of open source intelligence, so the knowledge on the existence and the use of open source intelligence. And the hypotheses that you have seen before, we applied them onto our field. So we formulated hypotheses regarding the acceptance of surveillance technologies. So people with higher cyber threat perception are inclined to be more accepting of OSINT. People who think there's an overall need for OSINT are inclined to be more accepting of OSINT. And regarding the privacy impact of OSINT, we wanted to know if people with greater privacy concerns are inclined to be less accepting of OSINT, and if people with stronger privacy behavior are inclined to be less accepting of OSINT. And lastly, we wanted to also test an interactive factor, the awareness, as I said earlier. So we wanted to know if people who are more aware of the possibility or the actual implementation of OSINT have a different, react differently. So now I want to present descriptive results regarding a few of the factors. I'm not going through all of them because of the time. So first of all, it was interesting to see that the highest support was going to civilian rescue and relief organizations using OSINT as well as police to fight crime. However, using artificial intelligence, both for the analysis as well as for the data gathering, was seen rather critically. Looking at the need for OSINT, there was actually the largest support was seen for OSINT when it's used for the protection from external threats. However, the population didn't feel that security agencies need broader permissions to do so. When we looked at privacy concerns, overall 48% strongly disagreed with the feeling of being constantly watched and monitored. Interestingly, many participants showed neutral positions towards the use of OSINT by government agencies, and the majority of the participants did not see OSINT as a threat to their privacy online. So privacy behavior was asked using 7 items, and most of the people would use, for example, covering camera lenses or use encrypted messenger apps, followed by encryption software and VPN connections, and anonymization services and meta search engines was least used by the participants. And lastly, the awareness of OSINT. So most of the people are actually aware that the information that they publish online is publicly viewable and can be analyzed. However, only 51% think that this can be used for OSINT. So OSINT is a lesser known phenomenon. Thank you. So coming to the main effects, when we look at the effects, our regression model explained around 63% of the variance, and we can see that threat perception and the need for OSINT, no surprise, is positively correlated with the acceptance of OSINT, while privacy concerns is negatively correlated. So it means if you have higher privacy concerns, you're less accepting. And this is no surprise. It's in support of the other literature on SOS. Looking at the effect of OSINT awareness as an interactive factor, it's quite interesting because the only significant result that we got was for privacy concerns. So we saw that high awareness of OSINT and low privacy concerns led to a higher acceptance, while low awareness of OSINT and low privacy concerns led to lower acceptance. What does that mean? It means that it's very important when we use OSINT, for example in cybersecurity, that we have to be transparent about it, that there has to be a public discourse and there has to be a transparency on the technology and the measures, and people really want to know about it. Because this way we can have high awareness and maybe provide trust and lower privacy concerns and reach higher acceptance of OSINT in certain areas that we agree that we need it. So the key takeaways are people with high threat perception and high need for OSINT are more inclined to accept OSINT in cybersecurity. Privacy behavior has not been associated with the acceptance of OSINT. It was not significant as an effect, and this might be due to the mismatch between privacy concerns and privacy behavior. And the awareness of OSINT only changes the dynamic of the association between privacy concerns and OSINT acceptance. However, our study has limitations. We saw many neutral answers. This might be due to the fact that many people don't know what OSINT is and they still have not made up their mind how they feel about it. Also, the German sample might limit the study to Germany, and other experiences or other cultural factors may change the results in other countries or in other contexts. So, implications for OSINT systems. We should think about what types of data we use and we actually need, and how we can use data minimization approaches in OSINT systems. So how can we achieve open source situational awareness with a limited amount of data? There are different approaches. I don't want to go into detail, but this is also something that we research in the Cybersecurity project. We should respect contextual privacy. So in our Cybersecurity project, we work with cybersecurity experts and they operate within their cybersecurity networks, for example, in Twitter. And this would be a context where data retrieval might be more accepted than taking data out of context. And we think that platforms should update their safeguard against disproportionate data collection, and we should also have a discussion about which data to use, for example, in emergency response or for public security. And last but not least, individuals' awareness need to be raised by using participatory design methods like this, and we should engage in a democratic discourse on what technology we want to apply and how to actually develop these systems and use this system and what kind of data we are okay to be analyzed. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Great. Thank you, Thea. Nora, if you could come down and get set up, and we'll just switch over the computer. There are quite a few questions on, you can keep the mic for a second. There are quite a few questions on Zulip, but I'm just going to ask one to you, Thea. So the question is, someone says, interesting work. I am curious if some demographic factors impacted the acceptance factors for OSINT, especially those who saw OSINT as a privacy threat.
There might be. Sorry if I screamed at you earlier because I was holding the mic closely. There might be, but for this study we didn't particularly look at demographic factors, so that I would need to do an extra research on. Sorry.
All right, thank you.